Hello everyone, welcome back to Spar&Brawl. Hope you're having a decent day. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Sam, and we're back with another leftist film review. So in this series, Sam really, he's our resident expert when it comes to movies and TV shows. He picks a movie that, well, it's interesting, just the movie itself, but it also has some themes which are political and social in nature, which we can draw parallels with real events, which make it kind of relevant for this channel. So yeah, Sam, for this leftist film review, we picked the Suicide Squad, right? So why don't you give a little overview of this episode?
Sure. I mean, I'm no expert. I just really like movies. I would say that. But yeah, in today's video, we're gonna first focus on the first, we're going to give you a bit of an overview of the film, the story. Then we focus on the production of the film, what actually happened, a tiny bit, because it's interesting, frankly. And then we're going to focus on the production quality, what we think of the production quality of the film. And then it's going to be the meat of the thing. We're going to basically jump into the themes of the film, mostly political themes that I found very interesting. And it's going to be a spoiler review, by the way. Spoilers, and I wish we mentioned that earlier on as well, but yeah, definitely it's going to be, because we have to discuss the ending and all that. So yeah, please, if you haven't seen it, check it out before you watch this. Although I know some people have this weird thing that like to the movies to have been spoiled for them, but that's a very niche movie thing.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's going to be full of spoilers, but I think we've announced it at the right time. We haven't started talking about it, so it's all good.
Yeah, sure. So should I just give an overview of the story and sort of the setting of the film?
Please.
So this Suicide Squad, by the way, because Suicide Squad is the 2018 movie, which this movie is a sort of a soft reboot, sort of a sequel, not quite clear. And I'll get into that as well. But it's a kind of, it's not a continuation, but it's in a DC universe, the DC universe being the universe of Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Joker, Harley Quinn, many others. So there's a comic book series, Suicide Squad, in which sort of B-C level villains, like really shitty villains of Batman, Superman, people with limited powers and not very popular, when they're in jail, they're used by government to perform black op operations. There's a chip put in their head, and if they sort of diverge from the plan, they will be killed. And in this film is actually you could argue that there's a very small and simple story, in that sense that there is a Suicide Squad is put together by Amanda Waller, the government official that runs the Suicide Squad. She puts the team together. Oh, and there's a character, Rick Flag, who's he's not part of the Suicide Squad. He doesn't have a chip in his head. He's their sort of handler. He's their, he's their captain. And Amanda Waller puts the team together, most notably including Bloodsport, Harley Quinn, Savant, many others. There's so many characters in this movie. Puts a group together because there has been a change of government in a Corto Maltese, which is a fictional country in comic books, but it's implied it's in Central or South America. There is a change of government there, and the new government is hostile to Americans. And they don't want to, their plan is not to go there and perform a coup or anything. They're planning to get rid of every trace of a project called a Starro, which is a weapons program that could be dangerous for the whole world, very sort of WMD-like. So yeah, that's the outline of the story without giving away the ending. Now, again, a spoiler alert. Well, they get there, they go through the mission, there's all different characters killed off, all that. We find out that Project Starro was actually funded and backed by Americans. It was actually Americans that found this sort of alien thing in a space and brought us home, but they couldn't do experiments and that type of thing in American soil. on American soil. So they moved it to this sort of central South American country, which is a kind of island-like. And they started experimenting on humans, children, men, women, all of that. And it was backed by US government. So the main objective of the mission was not to help the world to get rid of this monster, was to get rid of any evidence of US government involvement, which was quite an interesting one. Although it does end in a sort of a bittersweet thing because the information does not get out there, but the main characters manage to use the information to leverage sort of some safety for themselves. So you think that's about it? Should I give any more?
Yeah, no, that was really
details?
good. That was really, I wish you would have told me that before watching the movie. Maybe I'm one of those people who would enjoy the movie more if I if I already know what happens, because I love rewatching the same movie or shows. So maybe I'm one of those people.
I think it's, yeah, I know, I understand what you're saying, because I think for half of the movie, or at least 70% of the movie, you were probably like, oh, what is this bullshit?
Well, the comedy kept me going. The comedy kept me going, like those parts.
Exactly.
But yeah,
well, I
continue.
hope.
Yeah.
All right. So what did you, I mean, okay, so that was the general themes of the story, and I kind of mentioned some of the political things that will come into play later. But let's get into the production of the film, first of all, just very quickly. James Gunn is a director. I don't know, do you know about his background? What movies have you seen from him?
Yeah, so I mean, now I just looked it up for this, so I saw that he did Guardians of the Galaxy. But what else has he done that I would know, you think?
Have you seen Slither?
No.
No.
Is he? But he does
Slither
comedies. Is that his thing? His background is
sort of horror comedies.
Horror comedy. Okay.
Of. Yeah, he did this movie Slither in 2006. That's the first one I knew. It was sort of sci-fi black comedy. He uses a lot of same actors, a lot, like Nathan Fillion. You know, the TDK, the guy who could separate his arms from his body.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, that was. So he did that, but I think another movie he's very famous for is Romeo and Juliet.
Okay, I heard about
and he was an associate. Yeah, he's very famous for that. So he's got a very dark and comedic comedic sensibility, very dark and very comedic. I was surprised to find out he was also one of the directors of one of the most hated and movies in the world, movie 43, which is considered one of the worst movies ever. It's sort of a sketch movie, different comedy sketches, and he's director of one of the sketches. So I might check that out actually, but I was very surprised to find out. But yeah, so you haven't seen anything from him, but
I think I've probably seen movie 43, probably, but I also don't like these kind of movies where it's I mean, just because I'm looking at the cast right now, I could have possibly seen it.
It's really funny, but that movie has its own story about the fact that they tricked loads of famous celebrities into signing shit and they forged their signatures. Anyways, but yeah, he's got a very dark and comedic sensibility, and I think in Guardians of Galaxy, the movies are PG, right? This is an R-rated movie. So here he could go full on sort of James Gunn. And I think that was fantastic. I don't know. Did you like this comedy, like the sense of humor?
Yes, I did. But I mean, I remember finding Guardians of the Galaxy funnier. So I mean, I remember that, but this one too. And I mean, the shark, and I mean, I thought some of like the animals, they were kind of like making fun of Guardians of the Galaxy, but I don't think they're related. Maybe it was just like that. Like one of them was extremely bad looking, right? The one who's from like the first mission, and he kind of like, you think he died in the beginning, but he didn't. They show him at the end. He's like this insanely bad. Yeah.
It's like it's disgusting.
I mean, I know he was.
Like that's the thing though. That's one of the reasons, like I want let me talk about the production. What I wanted to mention was that James Gunn had made these joke tweets years ago, and he had already apologized for them once. Uh, really dark jokes. I don't remember them, and so I don't remember if I was really offended by them or not. But anyways, he apologized for them already before Guardians of Galaxy, I think, came out. After Guardians of Galaxy 2 came out, there was this right-wing campaign. They brought this whole thing up again, and then Disney sort of fired him. They suspended him, and they said he's not going to direct Guardians of Galaxy 3. Which everybody thought was just such a, you basically cave to the neo-Nazis and all that. And then Warner Brothers quickly saw an opportunity there and jumped in and had him direct the Suicide Squad. So sort of they got, and and there's a reference in the movie. If you see Rick Flack's T-shirt, some people say it's a reference to that. There's a rabbit, which probably is Bugs Bunny, with a sort of Superman sort of thingy behind him, and I think on his T-shirt or he's got a sign that it says obstacles can become opportunities, or something along that line. So, and then, by the way, because the cast, especially the person who plays Drax the Destroyer, he was such a stand-up guy basically, and he kept on Twitter saying that I don't want to work with anybody but James Gunn on the third one. I'm only doing this because I have a contractual obligation. These guys are assholes. They shouldn't fire James Gunn. Basically, he kept doing that. And now, thankfully, James Gunn was about a year ago or so reinstated as the director of Guardians of Galaxy 3. So, I mean, that's a sort of background to how he came to be the director of this movie. But I do think he's perfect. Like, I think with his sensibilities, Suicide Squad was perfect with his sensibilities. Another thing about the production of this movie, we should point out that the Suicide Squad in 2018 was considered to be a major flop, both commercially and critically. It was awful. It was one of the worst movies probably ever made. And one of the main reasons for that was that the director, the studio took the movie out of the director's hand and gave it to the company that basically did the trailers, and they did edit the movie, and it's a terrible movie. It's clearly like made in a boardroom, but even in that boardroom there was no consensus, so everybody was doing their own thing.
Oh my God.
So it's an awful movie, and there is talks of maybe a cut of that coming out, who knows, air cut as they call it. But so that was the production. But getting into I really enjoyed the way the sets were designed, the mixture of special effects with real effects. I felt was fantastic. The griminess of everything. There was a lot of sort of gadgets the characters had that was sort of like toy gadgets and stuff.
Yeah.
But they were designed in such a grimy and interesting way, in my view, that they didn't feel like a Power Rangers movie. Or I think a lot of Marvel movies feel everything is too shiny and too clean and too, there's no dust on stuff. There's no grime. So I really like that about the movie. And the set pieces, the special effects. I don't know, what did you think?
So would you categorize like the bad monster into like the same kind of thing, because he was just like cute and gross at the same time?
Yes, exactly. No, you're right. That's actually I was going to talk about that more in terms of symbolism, because I think James Gunn in this movie especially, and in his other movies as well, he does such a good job of sort of like, I think, reverse symbolizing and stuff, like exactly making something like Sebastian, sort of this rat, making him the cute thing, this rat that lives in the sewers. Yeah, it was same with the Starro. It's a disgusting thingy, but at the same time, it could be a great kid's toy, I think.
And I mean, just one thing I wanted to mention too. So you said the first one didn't do well in the box office. This one apparently didn't do too well. It hasn't done too well yet, right?
No, sadly no, but thankfully they already plans for future works and all that.
Okay, nice.
So I think they knew it's not gonna, I mean, it's R-rated, not that that's just excuse enough. But by the way, there's this guy, Dan Merle. on YouTube, and he does great box office sort of breakdowns, and he just goes through details. But the coronavirus sort of Delta variant coming back, all of that. So yeah, we don't know.
And the first
but
one
no,
didn't do well at all, right? Like as soon as I told my wife about it, she was like, because she had seen the first one, and she was like, "Oh no, it was
wow.
crap." And she watches everything, so she must have hated that one so much. But I was like, no, apparently this is like a reboot or whatever. It has nothing to do with the first
Yeah,
one. So that's probably in the
it's a
back of
weird.
people's
Yeah,
mind.
I think that may have left a bad taste as well, because that movie is pure shit, pure, like, it's so bad, it's
Oh
so
yeah, okay,
bad.
I didn't
It's
see it.
anyways. Don't genuine, like, that's one of the movies that even, like, it's not even fun to watch, as in, like, oh, look how stupid they're,
Yeah.
like some movies are. But yeah.
Yeah, but he decided, just last
No,
point on
this
that. I mean, I guess it's not that important, but it's funny how he decided to go with the exact same actress for that role, right? It kind of confuses you when you just like look at it like that
There are
quickly.
three roles: Harley Quinn, Rick Flag, and Amanda Waller. They all are, and
Mhm.
the Captain Boomerang, who, uh, spoiler alert, again, passes away very early on in the movie.
Oh.
He's in the first movie too. But yeah, it's a weird one, because I don't think he bothers with explaining whether it's a sequel or a reboot. He just does his. All right. Yeah, apologies about that. Camille mentioned that there are a couple of actors that cross over from the old film to the new film. And yeah, I think that's why it makes it a bit confusing whether it's a sequel or reboot. Not that it matters, but I think Viola Davis, for example, is a fantastic actress. So I'm really glad they kept her as Amanda Waller. I can't think of anybody playing her better. Same, I quite like Joel Kinnaman as Rick Flag. I thought he played him very good. Uh, yeah, I don't know. What did you think of the acting besides sort of the special effects and all that? How did you enjoy the acting?
Oh, I mean, the acting is very good. I agree with you that that lady is a very good actress. I always forget her name, and she's also really good at accents. I actually noted one thing about actors. You know John Cena, John Cena.
John Cena.
Cena.
Love him, by the way. He stand out in this.
I like him too. He just looks like he really tries his hardest and his best in the movies, and like to really put on a good performance. I guess everybody does, but I mean he comes from wrestling background, right? He was a WWE guy, right? Yeah, yeah. So yeah, he's just like anytime I see him in a movie, he's good, and he puts like really good effort. I guess everybody does, but yeah.
No, he's a fantastic actor. He was in Bumblebee. He was very good. He's willing to make fun of himself in like even short videos and all that. And it's really cool that, I don't know, like Drax the Destroyer's actor, whose name escapes my mind, in Guardians of Galaxy, is also a former pro wrestling champion. And these guys, because I used to have a bit of a when I was very young, I used to love WWF. I think was back then or something. Yeah, I used to play the video games and all that. Then I became older and I found out it's all fake. When I was like 10, it's all kayfabe, and I was like, "What? These liars!" But then recently they've made me really like it's there. It seems to produce some of the most human, because John Cena and the person who plays Drax Destroyer, like besides their acting, they're like in their social life and stuff, they seem to be like the nicest men.
Yeah.
And like so just kind. But in this one, I would say John Cena's performance, in my view, was just a standout. He was so good.
Really
he was just so good. And we'll get to like why I think he was so good. But anybody else's performance you really liked, or you want to?
No, but now that you mentioned this, I was also never really big into WWE. But just so, do you categorize The Rock the same? Do you also like The Rock, or do you get the same feelings from him?
I don't think Rock is to be. I mean, this is my view, and I think Rock hasn't, maybe because he hasn't chosen to do as many challenging roles. But these two I've seen. The other actor, Drax the Destroyer, whose name I keep forgetting, he played in Blade Runner 2049, and he was fantastic. Very short,
presence, but very, very, very good, very, how do you say, very effective, very effective. So I haven't seen The Rock in a serious role.
That's true.
So I don't know how good of actor he is, but he seems like a very nice guy as well.
Yeah.
I don't know like too much about his stuff, so whatever I say is bullshit. I love the new Jumanji movies though. The both of them are fantastic.
Oh really? Okay. I used to love the original one, but okay, all right, continue. Yeah, actor wise, I mean that's the only one I'd actually noted, so it's funny that you asked. But yeah.
Well, I like Peter Capaldi as Thinker. I thought was good as well. The bad guy, the guy with things on his head, the Thinker.
Oh yeah.
I thought he was like the one that I mean, we are going full of spoiler territory with the bit where he's telling the rat catcher to the girl that your government didn't send you here to, you know, to destroy this monster. They just send you. It's just he's so good. And he makes all these small jokes. Rat catcher too threatens him to have a rat crawl up his ass, and he's like, you would be surprised to find my answer. You know, so you know whether I enjoy that or not. So I thought the actors were all fantastic. Margot Robbie was fantastic, I think. David Dasmalchian, who I believe, I have a feeling David Dasmalchian may be of Iranian descent, Armenian Iranian descent. I think because his family name is a very common family name in Iran, as is his name.
Dawood, this guy.
Yeah, and he was fantastic. And he's somebody I was so like happy for him to get this role, because he was somebody who I had seen. First time I saw him was in The Dark Knight, where he played a tiny role, and he was so good in that like less than a minute he was on a screen. And he has like every year you see him grow and become better and be in bigger movies. And I thought he was some people say he was like the heart and soul of the movie, and I kind of agree. I think he was amazing as well. So, but Dasmalchian is such a common name in Iran that it does make you suspicious that he may be of Iranian descent. Yeah. Yeah, in terms of production and director and the cast, I don't know. I don't have anything else to add except that.
Same here.
And Idris Elba, by the way, was obviously fantastic. It's just he's so obviously fantastic. I didn't mention it.
Yeah.
And did you know who's the voice of the shark?
Yes, I just saw that today when I was looking up stuff. Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, Sylvester Stallone. And you have you know, the person who plays the shark is the same person who is who's in The Calm Room with Amanda Waller, the man with the beard, tall guy, kind of overrated a bit.
Oh yeah.
He's a very famous comedian, fantastic comedian, Steve Agee, if I'm not mistaken. And he plays the shark in in reality. He wears the suit.
In the
and
movie.
The weasel is played by Weasel is played by by James Gunn's brother Sean Gunn. So
okay, I see.
Yeah, Weasel, fantastic actor. So I don't know, anything else we want to add?
No. All good. Please proceed.
All right. So let's sort of dive into the themes and writing and what do you say, a storyline, all of that, the meat of the matter. What did you think? Because you are a sort of first time viewer who's not as initiated in this whole world as I am in terms of the universe. You've seen, I'm sure, loads of superhero movies, but what did you think as first time viewer of Suicide Squad?
Oh, it was I mean, for a superhero movie, like you said, I mean, there are a few superhero movies that I guess I like, but I mean, I thought this was like a really good one for a superhero movie in that sense. And it was funny, and of course it wasn't just like ridiculous, and it wasn't made for kids, but yeah, I mean, you know, like I liked it. I wouldn't say that I loved it or that I'd want to see it again, you know.
Oh wow, okay. Very harsh.
Like I liked Guardians of the Galaxy more when I watched it.
Really? Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I would say Guardians of Galaxy, I agree with you that it's funnier. And I think this movie had a bit of a, because I think James Gunn didn't want to sort of repeat what he did with Guardians of Galaxy. So it was difficult to like be too funny. You know, you don't want to be too funny.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, I just before I delve into the themes, I would say in terms of storytelling, though, I would say it was one of the. I just love a movie where there is no, in my view, extra fat. Like every line in the movie, it has a payoff. Like there is this thing in writing that apparently, I don't know if it's true or not. Chekhov says that if in the first act of your play you have a weapon on the wall, that weapon should come into play by the third act or something. And like there's this, for example, it feels like a throwaway line where Amanda Waller is recruiting Bloodsport, Idris Elba, and Peacemaker, John Cena, that he says, he does exactly what I do. He says, I do them better. And he says, how do you hit things more in the center? And he says, I use the smaller bullets. And this is exactly what happens in the third part of the movie, where Bloodsport actually uses the smaller bullets to do that.
True that.
So you have all these things paying off, because lines that are not, the director doesn't point them out to you. He doesn't play a romantic music or something. So there is a brevity to, even the introduction of the movie with Savant, the character who goes on to have his head blown. It's so efficient. So fast. Introduction to Blackguard, all the characters. It's so efficient and so well done. It's just sometimes you feel like I wish I saw more of those characters. Like I really want to see more of the TDK, the what was it, the detached kid or whatever, Nathan Fillion character. I would love to see a mini series with him just fighting crime.
So whatever. Okay, before we get into the political social story, so you would say this was like a really good movie, like for you, like you really liked it as like a superhero movie and just generally.
No, first of all, when you say that, every time you say that, a little part of me dies, because I hate that, they always, for a
No, I just not for a
I know,
super, like,
I know what
category.
I know you don't mean that. It's just, it's just, I've read that so often that it sort of triggers me. I get triggered by really weird shit. But so I think it's I think it's one of the best sort of a man on a mission. Man or women. I'm sorry, you there might be an edit right here, but I was just saying, I love movies like this in general, and I think it's one of the best man on a mission movies ever. And I'll get to that more when we talk about the themes. The way these type of movies, superhero movies especially, can play with symbols, I love. It's just, it puts it in one of my top movies ever, probably. I'll up there with Godfather, which you haven't seen.
Well, okay, continue. Go ahead.
Okay, anything about the story or writing that stand out to you?
No, although I 100% agree with what you said. I mean, it's so nice if a movie is made like in a way perfectly and there's no fat on it. But I agree with that, but continue.
No, fair enough. I would say in terms of like, if you want to give a sort of a bad negative thing, some people have argued that Harley Quinn's story is a bit separate from the rest of the thing, but I think it works out great in the end. But let's get into the political and all that type of things. I mean, the movies, I think the movie's highly political. I don't know if you got that or not, but the what was your view after the first time watching it?
Yeah, no, there was a nice subplot when you watch the whole movie. There's clearly a plot like criticizing, I guess, part of the American empire, but I think you'll do a good job of pointing everything out. But you 100% see it, and it becomes obvious like halfway through and becomes very obvious. I mean, I was a bit stuck in the beginning. In the beginning, I was just stuck because when like the coup happened, they didn't like I thought they were gonna like differentiate, like very like, be like, I don't know, like communists have taken over, but they don't kind of point it out that way, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe they do. Do they? So in the beginning, they just didn't like really bring that part out on purpose, maybe just making obvious, like, they were bad for this reason and this guy's like good for this reason.
No, that's the thing. I think it's really, I mean, that's my last argument, so I'll get to that in the end. But art seems to understand power better than most scientists. But yeah, I mean, the movie is filled with political references. The most obvious one is the first time when the first Suicide Squad, who's about to get basically destroyed, comes out. It's a reference to a famous movie called Patton, about General Patton. And that movie itself, I think, in a way, was that movie itself is a fantastic movie too, because that movie is a bit subversive as well, because Patton is viewed as this sort of a hero in some circles, but in the movie they show some of his harsher sides, forcing soldiers to go on the front lines and telling them, if you don't go, I'll shoot you, and all that. So this is a clear, I think, reference to the movie Patton, and sort of a signifier of where the movie is going to go from there on. And then actually, I think you pointed out a fantastic thing, that they don't refer to the fact that the communist takeover or Islamist takeover or something. What they do mention is that the thinker does mention the fact that Starro seems to have been found after the fall of Soviet Union. He does mention that after Cold War, your government thought that his powers or his his potential could be exploited or could be harnessed for some use. So I love the fact that it is not just because a lot of movies try to present this dichotomy of if we don't do it, they do it. There's these two evil sides, and both are equally bad. And in this one, it's just not that. It's a small country ran by a dictator supported by U.S. government. Then there was a coup d'etat, and the new one is not as friendly. So I like that. I like that they mentioned that it was post-Cold War, the whole thing, the space thing. And I like that they like the whole, the space program and all of that. All of that is largely a veneer to get more funding for military, or to do military stuff. Like NASA was founded by Nazis. Like Werner von Braun was and this is, I just find it so weird that these days people look at these organizations as some sort of positive, like, institutions.
Yeah, well, NASA is it's a good image now.
Very good image. Yeah, Tom Lehrer, famous American comedian and songwriter, like in 60s was making fun of them for like being a bunch of basically Nazis and all that. So yeah, I love that. I love and by the way, at the same time, I think the portrayal of Homelander, sort of Amanda Waller, was fascinating as well. Amanda Waller is this official who clearly knows how to use each individual. Like, again, in the beginning of the movie, Bloodsport says he has the exactly same skills as I have. Why is he with us? She doesn't answer. And by the end of the movie, you find out the reason why he's with them is that he's the crazy one who's willing to destroy evidence to protect his nation or something. By the way, James Gunn described Peacelander as a douchey Captain America, which I think is the fantastic way of describing him. I think even the portrayal of the bad guys, let's, whoever, is it the Thinker, Amanda Waller, US government, and even Peacemaker as somebody, as a good soldier, like probably a lot of, I would imagine he's sort of inspired by a lot of hardcore right-wingers who are, very supportive of government no matter what type figures, So and even his portrayal was sympathetic, or not sympathetic, but completely understandable. You could understand these people exist, or you've seen similar to them. So I thought that was fantastic from showing both sides of that. I read a couple of articles. There was one on foreign policy analysis. There was one on the saloon, I think. One criticism that may have some justification is that typical with a lot of movies, the independence movement in the country is somewhat shown as like, they are at the mercy of American heroes, basically. So if American heroes didn't stop the sorrow at the end, the indigenous people of that island probably would have all been killed. And it sort of reflects a sort of lack of power on the oppressed people. And again, some articles were arguing sort of justifies this sort of American heroism and all that. I don't know if I agree with that, because I just think that's a bit more realism, really.
So let me see if I think I read that in one of the articles you shared with me. So just to clarify, I understood correctly, it's that at the end, although like the American side, the American, like the lady who sent everybody there, I mean, it was all fake, and they were trying, it was all, just to cover up what they had done and all that, and they were the bad people. But at the end, the American superheroes did defeat, like, the big bad monster. So in a way, the Americans did at the end of the day kind of save the population. Is that what you're saying and you're referring to?
Yes, exactly. Although they did it in opposition to their government, but they were still, it was them.
Yeah.
But then again, I think that's like, superheroes don't belong to nations.
Yeah.
And blood sport doesn't reflect me as a sort of a American flag waving character. You know what I mean? Like, just because you identify this superhero necessarily with America, growing up, I never thought Superman was American.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what is his citizenship?
Well, I guess since they were sent by the Americans, I guess they were sent by the Americans in this case.
Yeah, but then Americans called them off. They it's fantastic, because that was awesome. Like that scene when the story is gone wild, and Amanda Waller says, actually, this is positive for us. Causing havoc or causing instability in a nation hostile to American interests is a good thing. Let the monster go kill people. And they say fuck off, and they don't. So that and then you have, by the way, because she could have blown the heads off everybody, but the bureaucracy there, I like that. I mean, there are people, I know, it's I enjoy that. It was they are monsters, but even like, everybody's a monster. Nobody is good or bad. People are in situations, and you make choices, and some of them are awful, some of them are good. So I thought it was a bit, I mean, realistically, to be honest, these days most most freedom fighters fighting against dictators have no hope whatsoever. So I think that was just a bit realism rather than maybe a comment on the loss of power of the oppressed people.
Yeah, I think I agree with you.
There were a couple of other things I wanted to point out. I think this movie is also part of a trend. Some articles mention that too, sort of a American nationalism or American imperialism gone bad. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is a Marvel TV show, The Boys, even the last Suicide Squad to an extent, all reflect that sort of this sort of The Boys is probably the best of them in that completely deconstruct the superhero Captain America, Superman type thing. Falcon and Winter Soldier though is a quite good, like, if you want to see the difference between Falcon and Winter Soldier, it's your typical sort of TV show, sort of they refer to the issue, but they never deal with it. They never really deal, like Suicide Squad or The Boys. You had this character Milton, who I thought was fantastic. This guy who was their driver and helped them out, and then he dies, and basically all the superheroes except Polka Dot Man, the David the Smolcian, nobody gives a shit. And I think, again, like, this movie is highlighting this thing, because they are all BC great characters that nobody knows about really, except maybe Harley Quinn. So it's highlighting the fact that because you don't know people, because you don't know people's name, because you don't know their costume, or it doesn't mean they don't matter or they're nothing. I like that. I really enjoyed that. There you had
That was a nice
one of
touch.
the yeah, I thought it was really beautiful. I wish I hope we see more and more of that. There was a there is that, I think one of the funniest scene is when they stealthily break into the camp of the freedom fighters because they think Rick Flag is a hostage, and they just murder all these freedom fighters. And then she finds out later and they're like, oh, oops, sorry. It's just so good. You had something which I don't think anybody pointed out. I saw a lot of breakdowns on YouTube. You had a positive portrayal of a heroin addict, which is so rare. And
so I didn't pick up on that too.
View,
is that the rat lady?
Yeah, well, no, her dad, Ratcatcher's dad, Ratcatcher 1. That was played by Taika Waititi, by the way, another, I think, great director who made one of, again, my favorite movies of all time, Thor 3, Thor Ragnarok. He places that the story she tells Bloodsport on the bus is that he had a problem. He had a burden, I believe, or stuff, and they show he was a heroin addict, basically. So, and it was, they didn't shy away. They literally showed him injecting heroin and all that. But I think at the same time, they showed that, yeah, you can have somebody who's a heroin addict but loves his child, or is very compassionate. And addiction is in a lot of cases, is a mental issue, or is a result of very harsh personal circumstance. And I thought, it wasn't much. But in my view, these type of things are actually more effective than some art house movie that spends 2 hours preaching you about the how heroin addicts can be humans too. It did it in clearly we are having some internet issues today, but I don't know what's the last thing that I was recorded, but this movie is
the heroin one.
Oh yeah, well yeah. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I think this movie does a better job than a lot of movies because it's very short and to the point. Another example is the relationship between Idris Elba, Bloodsport, and his daughter. I think there's only one scene they have together, and then there's another one where she sees him on TV, and the relationship comes across as so real and so good in such a short time. Just fantastic writing, fantastic efficiency, and doesn't beat you over with its message about politics or about fathers and daughters or about heroin addiction. You can figure it out for yourself. It just gives you a representation, I think. So I found that to be fascinating. The only other thing I kind of want to mention is before I go into two major points, is there is that thing Jotunheim in Norse mythologies where Odin loses one of his eyes. Odin, the god of Norse mythology, it's like the Zeus of Norse mythology, and that sort of signifies him gaining knowledge. You had I don't know if this was on purpose or not, because I believe in the comics there is a location called Jotunheim as well. You also had the Bloodsport is called the Boy, and one of the most famous African American writers and very old, one of the best African American writers, kind of pre-modern probably social sciences, is W.E.B. Du Bois. Again, the characters in the comic is called the same. I don't know if this is a reference or not, but I thought that was interesting, so I thought I mentioned it.
Yeah, very interesting.
Now.
So before you move on to that, it's interesting that you said Dubois. Maybe we should. I believe Pascal, who's been on Bree's podcast a bunch of times and stuff. I think he knows a lot about Dubois. It'll be, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it'd be interesting to maybe talk to him one day. Yeah. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Dubois is a fascinating character, from what I understand. No, it's just I was going to ask you if you have any input about the things I said, because then I have just 2 points I want to make about symbolism and about politics.
I don't think anything in addition to what you've said and the little comments I've made here and there.
So this is something that I should probably write down and make it more concise, but this is something I've always thought about since I watched these videos by Slavoj Žižek about environment and recycling, and he was explaining you should not hate shouldn't hate these preconceptions that we have about certain things won't allow us to reimagine our rubbish as something that can be useful, or something like that, and I love movies. In my view, this is not to do with rubbish, but I love in movies that they sort of in a symbolic way, they sort of turn the thing on their head. And I think this was a movie that did that a lot, that had a lot of, like, for example, rats, I think, were one of the things where they did. I think the most prominent example is when Harley Quinn sort of stabs a sparrow in the eye, and she's swimming. And usually in these sort of scenes, like, there are beautiful fishes swimming next to the person, or the person is in the air and there are all these beautiful birds and all that, and you see all these rats sort of swimming next to her and eating the eyelid of the sparrow and all that. And it's beautiful. It is genuinely, the colors, all that is beautiful. And then you have this lady with a fully white face, in the middle of there. I love, or you have the romantic relationship between Harley Quinn and the new dictator, and then abruptly cut by her shooting him. I love the way artists sort of subvert symbolism, because I'm so tired of you want to see something new, you want to see something beauty. And by the way, it was perfect for Suicide Squad, because we're talking about people who want to be redeemed, people who want to do better. And I think it's perfect for our world right now, because we are all in a way criminals by participating in this whole capitalist system. And this sort of, it's the time for these heroic stuff is over, and maybe we should swim with the rats and all that. I don't know exactly what I'm saying, but yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, I see what you're saying.
I think some movies subvert. I'm trying to think of, there was another example in my head which completely escaped my mind.
But before you say that, maybe we'll come back.
To an extent, to an extent, Star Wars 2, is like that. Kill the past type thing. You just get rid of some old symbols. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. No, I'm trying to think of an example of a movie like this too. I can't think of anything. But I just want to say, you think that everybody's a criminal, but I think that everybody's a victim. But that can be for another day.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a fair enough. Oh, you just reversed that on me. No. That was like death touch. Like, reversed engineered my own argument. Yeah, I suppose I'm more on the criminal side.
Yeah, but I guess even the heroine example that you gave, would that fall into your argument here, kinda, or no?
Yes, probably. I would say in a way, yeah, because it does. I mean, it's a more mild version of that. It's not so much symbolism; it's more a storytelling, probably. But
true.
Yeah, I would say I just remembered. Actually, fuck, it escaped my mind again. I just had a great example.
You're about to say Guardians of the Galaxy, or maybe you're going to say something.
Yeah, no, but God damn it.
Yeah, sorry, I really can't help you.
Oh, sorry. Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok, a movie directed by Taika Waititi, the guy who plays the heroin addict. I think that movie does that too. I think that movie does a very similar thing. For example, showcasing people in power as these buffoons rather than as these sort of masterminds behind things, and showcase, like, that movie is about the fact that I mean, a spoiler alert for Thor Ragnarok, but the ending in that is kind of very subversive as well, in my view, very subversive.
Very interesting. I'm sure there are plenty of examples. I think after this video, some examples are going to come to our mind. So maybe folks watching this video will write down a few examples.
So, okay. And then I just wanted to make a last point about art and politics and artists and political, commentators or political analysts or political junkies. I don't know why, but it's really weird. Like I genuinely think this, like if I was going to teach people about American foreign policy abroad, I think this movie does a much better job than most articles, most history books, most writings. Like if you just want to give them this is how it is, then you can go read about the details and all that. But that's the mechanism, that's the rationale that guides foreign policy, that guides power. And it's just so surprising for me that so many people do not get that. For example, we're doing a video about Afghanistan and the recent takeover of Afghanistan by Taliban. And just you have these commentaries, people talking about, humanity, American government, they broke their promises. I don't know, genuinely, it feels like they're talking about a family issue. They don't realize the context of things.
Yeah.
So I would say I never understand why so many artists seem to get it so much better than so many people who are supposedly are professionally or at least semi-professionally are following these things. So I think this movie genuinely gives you a much better understanding of politics. But at the same time, though, it is fascinating that, for example, you get, because I wanted to get there, that's how, at least that's how I see, that's what I get from their art. But then when you talk to a lot of artists, the example that comes to my mind is Kelsey Grammer, who I love. Kelsey Grammer famously played Frasier. I mean, I love this actor. He played this in this TV show who about, I think, 6 people watched, The Boss, or was it Boss, in which he played the mayor of Chicago. And again, that TV show, just the first season especially, is one of the best things I've think ever recorded on film or video or whatever. Especially in terms of US politics power. Like it just explained to you how politics works and how it can affect people and all that. And then Kelsey Grammer, as far as I know, is a Republican. And I just cannot reconcile. It's just in my mind, these two facts cannot be reconciled when you have these fantastic, like these actors or these artists do such great, fantastic works of art, but then end up themselves sort of pushing for policies that are not, that are quite bad. Kind of like Clint Eastwood. When after watching Gran Torino, I thought that was a fantastic movie showing about how like old men have problems, understanding race and all that, but they might not be fully racist and they hate crime. And the end where he doesn't even, spoiler for Gran Torino, where he doesn't have a gun, sort of, I thought it was an anti-violence message and all that. And then and then later on you see him, saying those things about Barack Obama. Not that I'm a fan of Barack Obama, but, racial things, stuff like that. So, it's just so, I cannot reconcile that. I do not understand that, but.
No, definitely. I mean, so that's good. I guess if you have students and you're going to show them this movie, that's a good idea. Hopefully you'd be a better teacher than Anna Kasparian.
Sorry,
and
by the way,
sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna, so like the main point that you were making here is that, they show that foreign policy, if I understood correctly, is like, they pretend that they're going somewhere to do something good, for the people, but it's all bullshit. There's like a completely alternative motive behind it, which this movie points out perfectly. And then your comments on the Afghanistan thing, we're gonna hopefully do that in our next progressive world video. I mean, I sometimes forgive people if they are like really victims themselves, like directly, so I can see how they like
they're just trying in their head in any way just for the good thing to happen for them. But if
Oh,
not,
no,
I
no, no. I meant
100% agree with what you're
no, I
saying.
did not mean, I did not mean people who are directly, I mean,
Yeah.
of course, it's awful. Everything is
But
awful.
yeah,
It's just
but like a random political
pretending.
commentator saying that kind
No,
of stuff.
and random political commentator, in my view, has the duty to inform people that no government is operating based on those things. So,
Like, yeah.
if you at least at least if you know the truth, you can deal with it better, perhaps.
Like the one guy, I mean, on Novara Media, if anybody watches, they just posted an Afghanistan video that's 30 minutes to an hour long, and one of the guests, I think, does a beautiful job of speaking that
Yeah,
way
I
and
think one
just
of Antoine
talking about
Liev was
the
fantastic.
harsh truths, right?
Just before like we finish off, I would say you mentioned that it's not a kids movie in the beginning, so I thought I'd bring this up. I genuinely believe I am one of the people who was completely opposed to the rating system, and there's a amazing documentary about it, which again escapes my mind. and the rating system in America is decided by a bunch of like not idiots, but by people who have no expertise whatsoever, and the rules and are so arbitrary and idiotic. And I genuinely believe this movie is completely appropriate for children 5 and above. You know, for example, I give you one example of this arbitrary idiotic thing. If you show blood, you automatically become R-rated. But in superhero movies, they beat the shit out of each other. There is not a drop of blood, and that's, in my view, that's far more dangerous for a child, because children watch these superhero movies and they think, oh, I can beat the shit out of somebody and it's nothing happens, while in fact in a movie like this you see the physical effect when you actually hit somebody or get hit by someone. So I actually I'm very opposed to this whole
I
R
mean,
rating system.
as a kid, I'm gonna ask you a question about the R rating system. But yeah, as a kid, I don't remember like blood, being something that bothered me particularly in movies. So yeah, it's like weird that they have that. Like for instance, when I was a kid, maybe this was R rated, but the Batman with Penguin, I used to be scared of the Penguin. Oh, did I freeze?
Sorry.
Yeah.
You froze. You said from childhood. I don't remember.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Sorry, internet issues again. I'll cut this off. Yes, from during my childhood, I don't remember like blood being something that like particularly scared me or like caused issues. I don't know. I remember that, Batman, the one with Penguin, I used to be scared of the Penguin. And I mean, he does eat like a fish.
Yeah,
And it's like fish's blood everywhere. But yeah, that's a weird thing. And then the R rating though, like they know in advance how their movie's gonna get seen, right? Like exactly, they know the blood thing. So like the people who make the movie, it's never, is it a surprise to them sometimes that their movie got a certain...
Sometimes it is, and they take it back, re-edit and all that. I mean, there was NC-17 back in, maybe there is still NC-17, which is like, there's like a young person, I don't think even accompanied by an adult can't go to that. And you have like blood. I was reading about this movie by Paul Verhoeven, Blood and Flesh, that got NC-17, then they re-edited, then it got R. And I've heard of like this Suicide, I think the original Suicide Squad, I think they told the director it's going to be R-rated, but then it's like, then they went, no. So yeah, because if you have PG, you have a much, much bigger market.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
Just access. Yeah. So
so that probably affected the box office as well.
Yeah, sure. Although R-rated movies recently have done great, like Deadpool, both Deadpools are R-rated, and they've superhero genre, very comedic, similar type of thing. So yeah, so it's not enough excuse, but I think this was I mean, I love Deadpool, but this is a really good movie, man. I don't know. This is like, to me, it's like as top, with 12 Angry Men or The Magnificent Seven, the original, just one of the best man on mission movies. So yeah, I just think that's also part of it. It's a harder movie to grasp, I think, a bit.
Okay, all right. Very, very nice.
But
All right, I don't think.
I talked pretty much all the time, but I
No,
wish you could give us some
not really. I mean,
any
I think I spoke
takeaways
quite a
about
bit.
my
I mean,
thoughts or anything.
no, I think I commented a lot. I mean, I think these film movie reviews, you'll be the one who's kind of guiding them most of the time. Although sometimes I might have more things to say, but no, I think that was good. Since we have this new setup, I hope everything was recorded properly, given that I'm away and that my voice is not too low or loud compared to yours. But yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. Oh, and something I forgot to mention earlier was that in an interview with James Gunn, he mentioned that at the end scene where Bloodsport is blackmailing Amanda Waller, apparently it's visible. I couldn't pause it to find it, but I'll try to find it and send you a screenshot. Maybe you can put it on this video. That there is a shot that shows the former president of Corto Maltese with Ronald Reagan together when they're
Yeah.
having the Project Starfish. So I think it's clear where James Gunn's sympathies lies. I think I like to think he's an ally.
Very nice, very nice. I see. Okay, and he's a good example that now I have in my head though about the right wing trying to cancel someone and they didn't really get canceled. I think this example might come back handy. I might have to.
Yeah,
I
man.
might have to
And
utilize it
by the way,
against you or in support of
especially
you.
good example because they tried to get him canceled for jokes,
Mhm.
and they're always like, oh, you guys on the left, you can take a joke when we
Yeah.
make fun of like somebody's racial tone. That's Jesus.
Yeah. Okay, very nice. I kind of wish in the beginning I would have mentioned that there were timestamps, but I'll write down below. So maybe I'm going to put some timestamps if some people want to skip to just the social political stuff, just something to remember for next time. But yeah, Sam, if nothing else to add, that was really good.
No,
Can
but
see what people have to
I
say.
feel like the only thing I feel I haven't talked about, Idris Elba is fantastic as always, and he's so good. You don't even like he's that character. I
Yeah.
feel like I should have talked more about him, but they all actors in this Ratcatcher too. David Dasmalchian, but David Dasmalchian and John Cena are standouts. Just you
Yeah.
don't see them coming.
No, John Cena, seriously good stuff. But okay, all right. So that's it, people. Please like and subscribe, and more importantly, leave your comments, questions, criticisms, everything down below, and we'll make sure to get to them. And we'll be back with a progressive world episode this week, right? We're going to talk
Hopefully,
about
we'll see.
Anna Kasparian,
See
Glenn Green.
who's
This one is
alive.
going to be juicy. Anna Kasparian, Glenn Greenwald, and a lot of things. But okay. All right, people. Thank you very much for watching. And juicy it. I should have my own spin-off where I just talk about it. But okay, people, please like and subscribe and comment and leave your questions, criticism, everything down below. And we'll make sure to get to them. If not, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in our next video. Thank you.